Hey guys, and welcome to Will Squared Podcast, where we talk about sports and we talk just about anything that comes to our mind. I'm Will Senior,
And I'm Will Jr.
and today we're just going to be talking about the NFL, National Football League. Tomorrow, join us as we talk about college football, where there's a lot of things going on there, the playoff seeding, and we'll also have Gabe from Texas joining us. He's going to give us his ideas as to what's going to happen in the national championship. So it's going to be a good conversation. Join us, but today it's just going to be Will and I. We're going to be talking about football. And this past week we had some really interesting games, and we'll start off with our favorite teams. Will, why don't you go ahead and tell us what happened with the Ravens
Oof.
and the Eagles?
This game was quite something for many reasons. Before the game, we talked about how these are two most explosive offenses, great quarterbacks, great running backs, great weapons for both teams, like two birds, good defenses all around. Well,
Yeah.
kind of the Ravens. But one sentence for this game that I could really summarize it is the first time I've seen a team really beat the Ravens in almost 3 years. And I know that may sound stupid because they didn't win every game the last 3 years. But if you watch the Ravens game and their losses, most of the time they've been on us. If it's missed field goals, fumbles, picks, penalties, a lot. Pretty much. So I did some research. I was like, you know what? In my opinion, what was the last time a team actually beat us? So I'm gonna go a little nerd mode here. All 5 losses this year, apart from Philly, was on us. Last year we went 13-4. That first Pittsburgh game, we had 5 drops. So that's one loss. Our second loss was Huntley, so I'm not gonna count the backup quarterback one. So just with Lamar in it. Okay. They also lost to the Colts as well, which, if I remember correctly, there's a few fumbles in that game, a lot of penalties, and a lot of self-inflicted wounds. And then they also lost to the Browns, which, if I remember correctly, again, they were up by 14 with 6 minutes left, and they lost that game. Okay, so that's the entirety of last year. 2 years ago, they lost a lot towards the end because of Lamar Jackson not being there. He was hurt. But when he was playing, they lost to the Giants. Again, they were up by 10 with 4 minutes left. They just self-destructed. It was nothing the Giants did. Okay, let's go before that. They lost to the Bills. Again, 20-3 at halftime. Just us being us. Okay, before that, they lost to the Dolphins, which we were actually at that game.
At the game, yep.
35-14 in the fourth quarter. Again, I'm not taking that as the Dolphins beating the Ravens. That was the Ravens beating the Ravens. So let's go to 2021. Oh, look, they lost the last 6 because Lamar got hurt. But that was the last time that we lost. They lost to Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh on December 5th, 2021. I remember that game too because it was a great game. But that was the last time I truly believe a team has beaten the Ravens. What does that mean? It means I'm a little scared because I've never seen a team really beat us in a while, obviously. But the defense, I was very impressed. The first 3 quarters. Okay, we both know how good the Philly offense is, obviously. And this defense didn't really do much, allow much for the first 3 quarters. But may I just say, you have to hate Vic Fangio so much right now because this guy is calling the most perfect defenses I've ever seen in my life. If you saw the Raven Philly game, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis were just controlling the entire game, the 2 D tackles. Just controlling the entire line of scrimmage. Yes, Derrick Henry had 20 carries, but it was only 80 yards because he couldn't break one through because those defensive tackles played such a perfect game. The edge rushers, also a perfect game. Gosh, I'm talking so much for this first section. It's only 6 minutes. But so the Ravens have a bye week now. I hope they get pissed off during this bye week because of what just happened and destroyed the Giants coming out the gate, which is the Giants probably the currently worst team in the league.
Yep.
But it was a long Sunday. Big credit to the Philly. They played a great game. Again, that defense is really top notch. We'll talk about this soon, but if it ends up being the Lions and Philly in the championship conference, that's going to be one of the best games ever. Gosh.
Could potentially be, yeah. Yeah, but let's also talk about Tucker. I mean, he missed
Okay.
another few field goals. So I would
I
even say if you put that in consideration,
yes,
it have been a much closer game.
it is very unfortunate that he's missing these, but I'll never ever like say bench him or cut him. Okay,
Oh
he's
no,
the goat of
never.
kickers. He's like saved us so many times. All I can do now is like try to support him
Yeah.
from afar, even, but not make it worse. Like he knows what he's doing. I'm hoping it's something that can be fixed because I'm gonna keep on saying this. If the Ravens lose in the playoffs and it's not the offense's fault, it's gonna be such a heartbreaker for me, considering the last 5 years it's always been
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
offense's fault. The defense has played great. Like Tucker's made his kicks. Like that's all fine.
Yeah.
It's just the
Yeah.
offense. But if it happens this year where it's anything but, it's gonna be so sad.
Yeah. He's been pretty consistent. He's been money for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And every kicker goes through this little spell. I mean, it happens to the best of them where they mentally start shutting down, and he'll be fine. I think he'll be fine. So I'm not too worried about it. Let's go ahead and move on because we did talk a lot about Ravens, and they do have a bye week, so hopefully they rest up and they get ready for this upcoming game, which should be a nice little easy walk. Oh, and by the way, this was the second time that Lamar Jackson loses to an
Oh yeah.
FC team.
Yeah.
So that's also a pretty impressive record that he has against the NFC. And the Eagles won. So it was a good game, though. I don't think. I mean, you say that the Eagles beat them down. I don't know about that. I think it was a lot closer than that. I think it had the field goals gone in, I think it might have been a different outcome. But who knows? Anyway, let's move on to the Dolphins and the Packers. And just like I said last week, I was expecting a loss because it was below 30 degrees. But I didn't expect Tua to play so well. He actually played well. He did have one or two bad passes, and I mean that's expected. I mean it just happens. But overall, he had a great game. What doomed the Dolphins this past weekend was the running and the defense. Our running game was just non-existent. It was just insane how we could not run against the Packers. And then our defense just couldn't hold Love down. We had him on a few third and long situations, and we allowed the first down. So what does that mean for the Dolphins? Now we drop to what, 5-7, and we have to win out if we're going to have any chance to get into the playoffs, even as a wild card, obviously, because Buffalo won the division, right? So next week we play the Jets, which again starts our 5-game stretch that we have to win. So we have the Jets twice. We have the Texans, who are not playing well. Well, I mean, they have a good record, but they are not playing well. That's probably going to be our toughest game coming up. We have the 49ers, and then we have Cleveland, who also Cleveland could be a little dicey. So we again, a lot of things were said this past week about Miami's being a weak team because we can't play in the cold and so forth and so on. You know what? That's a lot of just talking, a lot of smoke coming out of people's mouths. I don't, it just happens. There's teams that, especially Miami, who play in 80-degree weather in December. You expect them to play in 30-degree weather. Yeah, they're football teams and they should be able to play in any kind of weather, but it is what it is. I'm just hoping that if we do make it to the playoffs, that we do go play in a cold place and then we win. That would shut everybody down, but it is what it is. So that's it for our teams. Before we jump into other items in our list, what other games did you watch this past weekend that you thought were good?
Ooh.
Just really briefly, just touch
Yeah.
on it briefly.
Yeah. let's travel back to what I said this past week, that the Chiefs don't blow out the Raiders. Something is wrong.
Yes,
Something
and
is
they did
wrong.
not.
Something is wrong. I didn't
And
I didn't expect the offensive line of the Chiefs to be that bad, but there were times where I saw Pat Mahomes literally hike the ball and then immediately just look at the DN because he was worried for himself. The defense is not playing as great as last year, but we expected that. But they're getting away with the wins. They play the Chargers this week. Huge game. If the Chiefs win, they win the West. So Chargers kind of they have to win, or there'll be a wild card team.
yeah,
It's gonna be a great game. I'm not sure what the Chargers like game plan is here. You could run the ball here, obviously, because you're a running team. But I feel like to beat the Chiefs, you might have to pass some more.
yeah.
Because the coverages are the really real like weakness the last like, couple weeks. I mean, you have O'Connell throwing 300 yards against you. You have like Bryce Young throwing it very well against you.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a quick little word in the Chiefs.
Well,
Screw
before you move on from the Chiefs, let's talk about how that game ended. So there's a little bit of controversy because
there's no controversy.
One of the linesmen,
Go ahead.
listen to me, one of the linesmen after the fumble, they actually tried to blow the whistle dead, and they were actually doing a false start, which means that the play didn't count.
Yes.
Okay. They got together, they were talking about it, and they changed the call to an illegal formation, which allowed the play to go on and the fumble to be legit, which caused the Chiefs to get the ball. Had that false start been called, it would have been a chance to tie the game and go into overtime.
But it wasn't a false start. Who false started? No one false started.
I'm just looking at the refs.
It was the right call, what they did, but I did see the first ref like coming in immediately after the ball was snapped and going like this, but he was just wrong. There's no false start because the ball was snapped. But just that while it was snapped, they weren't set. So that's an illegal formation, illegal like motion shift, like something. But the ball is still live. So then when the Chiefs like got the ball back, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the Chiefs' ball.
Nah, so it's rigged, man. The NFL is rigged.
It's the right call. It's just so
NFL is rigged.
It's so unfortunate that these calls happen to the Chiefs.
Well, and I think we talked about this.
Yeah.
We talked about this. Sometimes the ball just bounces for one team, and it's going to stop bouncing soon. Things even out at the end, I believe, and we'll see what happens. Let's move on from this.
I got a fast question for you, just real quick. Did the Patriots get these kinds of like wins like back in the day during the regular season? I know the playoffs, so we've seen the playoffs.
They used to get favorable calls.
Yeah, but stuff like this, Chiefs season.
I can't remember.
Okay.
Where? Okay. So I guess the answer would be I don't remember the Patsies ever winning so many games by less than a score.
Less than a score.
Okay. I don't remember, but they did get a lot of favorable calls because of Tom Brady, the darling of the NFL at that time, just like Mahomes is the darling of the NFL now, and he will get calls. And by the way, we're going to be talking a little bit about Mahomes in this next section that I want to talk about. But yeah, so championship teams do get favorable calls. It's just the way it is because they are, they're the popular team at the time. That's all. Let's move on really quick. Let's move on to what happened in the Texans against the Jags
game.
And so in that game, Trevor Lawrence takes off to run, slides, gets hit by Azeed Al-Shaair.
Yeah.
Good job. They ruled it as a late hit. They disqualified him. The NFL just came on a couple of days ago, and they're suspending him for 3 games.
Yeah,
actually, it was supposed to be indefinitely, and they changed it to 3 games. What is your take, really quick, before I give you my take? What is your take on that?
It's a really tough situation, the whole play, but the suspension was right just because it was him. If you didn't know, this was his 7th warning. 7th warning. Okay. He's been fined, I think, 4 times this season, like 3 times last season. So that's not what I have a problem with. The problem I have is the way that the Texans reacted to it.
Okay.
D'Amico Ryan, the coach of the Texans, defending it.
Okay.
If it was me in a perfect world, I'll be like, He's a great person. He didn't mean to do that, but that's not a part of our game. Like, spare your team, your player, but be realistic. Like, if that was CJ Stroud, are you telling me that you're not doing the exact same thing as the teammates of Trevor Lawrence? That's just it. And even worse, the GM of the Texans, he twisted his words so bad, and it came back to haunt him. He basically said that this is an embarrassment that he's been suspended. So what he's pretty much saying is he should have suspended him last year in the first warning. So if I was that GM, be like, thank you for giving like so many warnings. It'll never happen again. But no, the Texans are just so unlikable right now. I mean, they have the same record as the Ravens. How does that make sense?
Yeah.
That just tells you division is everything, because if Ravens and Texans are the same record, what's going on in the NFL? I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Okay, really quick, but want to also be like, it's not fully his fault. It's really hard as a defender to stop your momentum when the quarterback turns to slide. When you slide, you face straight, so it's not that easy to see like when you're sliding. But when it does happen, it's really hard to stop your momentum. Yes, you might hit his head since he's going down, and it's just a bad look. But also, there's the Josh Allens of the world, the Mahomes that waits until the very last second of being out of bounds.
Well, and that was going to be my take. So
Yeah.
my take is, as a defensive player, it's very hard.
Yes.
Because you do have Mahomes. You also have
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about it, and I've seen this, and I've told you about it.
Yeah.
Where they fake. So they're running, they fake, they kind of turn sideways a little bit. The defenders stop, they turn, and they keep running.
Yeah.
So that's number one, right? I think the NFL needs to do something about that. They need to recognize that the quarterbacks are taking advantage of the law, of the rule, and exposing it so that they can get more yards. Okay. That's number one. Number two, when you do a slide, you should do a slide with a lot more than just 2 or 3 yards away from the defender, because the defender is coming at full speed. They're coming into his, right. I played defense, right. I played middle linebacker. I love that position because I love hitting people, right. So I can see how Al Sharir was running. He's gonna tackle, right, because that's all you want to do. You want to hit somebody, and all of a sudden you're within 5 feet from him, and he starts sliding. There's no way in hell you're stopping. There's just no way in hell. Now, could he have done something other than lead with his with his arms and his helmet? Yeah, obviously he could have. But in that speed, you're talking about split second decisions.
Yeah.
Very hard to do. So that brings me up to those points, right? One, by the way, am I saying that this is Trevor Lawrence's fault? No, I'm not saying this at all. I'm not saying this. That's just part of the game. 10 years ago, that was not a rule, right? And everybody was enjoying quarterbacks getting hit. That's just the way it was back in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s before Brady came and changed all that, because they wanted to protect the face of the NFL, and so they started making all these rules and changes to protect the quarterback. But back in the day, as soon as you take off and you're running, you should be considered a runner. You should not be considered a quarterback anymore, right?
Yeah.
So that, for me as a defensive player, that I just enjoy defense. That's what I see. One, make sure that the quarterback doesn't take advantage, because he's going to get laid out, because some of these defenders are not going to believe when they turn their body to do a slide. They're just going to ram right through him because they don't know what he's going to do. Secondly, if you're going to slide, make sure you slide with plenty of time to give the defender, time to move out of the way, to jump over you, to do something other than slam into you. And thirdly was, I think that quarterbacks should be considered runners once they cross the scrimmage. That's me.
Yeah. I would hope that they would make some kind of rule change during the offseason, but I really don't think it'll happen. Here's why. Who makes the rules, do you think?
Well,
The
they have
league
yeah,
but also who else?
the Players Association. They all
The
and
owners.
coaches
The
and
owners.
owners. Yeah,
And what do you value most in your team? Your
yeah,
quarterback.
obviously the quarterback.
You're saying that this kind of like changed when Brady was here. Yes, that is true, but also it happened because you're more of a passing league. Like back in the day, it was more of a running league. No fast quarterbacks. You couldn't. Who was a running quarterback in the 90s apart from like Steve Young or Cunningham? Not a lot
That's it. Yeah.
as today. So yes, it's Brady, but it's also because it turned into a passing game and you got to protect at least a one player. It's going to be your quarterback. I mean, you have $200 million. So Trevor Lawrence is worth $250 million over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So I
I
would
get
hope
that.
that there could be rule change because the Mahomes of the world, the Josh Allens, are smart. Like they'll know how to abuse the rules, but also they are still quarterbacks. I mean, that's the most valuable person in the whole league on your team, on your franchise. And you're going to protect him, even if it means that you can't hit like someone else's quarterback. But again, I really hope they do some kind of change, something where both parties are happy. But we'll see what happens with that.
Well, I mean, and kind of digging in a little bit more, most of the rules have in the last decade or so have been created to make the offense a lot more explosive, right?
Yeah.
So it's always been shackling the defenders. Like back in the day when when Dan Marino and Steve Young and Joe Montana and Jim Kelly and all those quarterbacks were playing, you can grab the receiver.
Oh, that's
you can do just about anything you want
to
a receiver, up to a point because there was pass interference. But right now you can't even touch him. Like you can't touch him. You can only, I mean, it's geared for the passing game.
Yeah.
I really believe that if Dan Marino was playing nowadays, he'd be getting 7,000 to 8,000 yards easily because he got 5,000 yards in that era when the average quarterback would get about 35. Now the average quarterback, if you don't get over 4,000, you're kind of like, what's going on here? And you break five, and there's been a handful of quarterbacks have crossed the 5,000 yard plateau that under other circumstances wouldn't have. Right. Yeah. So, but anyway, that's me coming on, standing on my soapbox. I'm going to come down because now we're going to talk about games that are coming up this week. What do you think is the one of the premier games this week?
Tomorrow night or tonight when this video goes out, the Lions and Packers, two teams that are playing very, very hot and very, very hot offensively as well.
Yeah, and it's good to see Jordan Love actually starting to play better, starting to come up to that level that he was playing last year. It brings really good, entertaining football to Green Bay, because even when A-Rod was there, it wasn't as dynamic. It was good, but it was just as dynamic. But yeah, so what do you think? They're playing at Detroit.
Yep.
So who do you have there?
I have the Lions in this game. Okay. I'm expecting a really great game, like physical game. It's in a dome, so no like weather problems at all. Even though like sometimes I do wish that Detroit didn't have a dome. But yeah, the Jordan Love is playing a lot better because of the running game, and this is what I'm saying. Like running game is really important for your quarterback. It takes a lot of pressure off your quarterback. It gives them a more simple job, and that's what the Packers need to do. They need to run with like Josh Jacobs a lot. They trust the arm of Jordan Love on the play actions like last year. They'll be a great team. The only problem is they're facing the Lions,
which are arguably the best team in the league right now.
Yes, they're playing really great on offense. Their defense is getting better each week, just trying to lock in, get some turnovers for that offense, and it's just a great coach team as well. I got the best, one of the best coaches, probably the top coordinator, and Ben Johnson. It's gonna be a great game. I got the Lions though. It's gonna be like a low 30s game, probably a high 20s. Jair is out for the Packers, so I feel that Amon-Ra could like take over the game, or even Jameson,
Hmm.
our Bama boy.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah. I'll also go with the Lions. I think it's like you said. I mean, right now I don't see a lot of weakness in that team. They're firing on all cylinders, which is really cool to see, especially Detroit. I'm going to say it's probably going to be like a 28-24 game. I think it's going to be a close game, but Detroit will come out on top. What other game do you see that's going to be potentially a good game next week?
there's not a lot of big games apart from two. That's not
Okay.
Thursday night. And I forgot to put one actually on this list, so I'll just
No,
tell
that's
you.
fine. Yeah.
The first one, the Bills and Rams. This is going to be a very important game for both teams. Really important.
Yeah.
The Bills obviously need to keep up with the Chiefs for that 1 seed, and I feel like if it's in Buffalo this year, they could really beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, but only if it's in Buffalo. And the Rams are a game behind the Seahawks for the division, and it's a very tight division. And that's the other point that I was going to say. It's the Seahawks and Cardinals at the same time as the Bills and Rams. So
Yeah.
two very important games, both for the division and the conference for Bills, since they won their division already. So yeah, very excited for that.
Yeah,
Rams.
I think the Bills beat the Rams.
Mhm.
And I think Seahawks win also, which could potentially change how the West looks.
Yes, the Seahawks beat the Cardinals 2 weeks ago, but it was 13-6 in Seattle. So now they face just 2 weeks later in Arizona. I had the Cardinals.
Okay.
Kyler and James Conner did not play well in Seattle, so I'm really hoping that they have a bounce back game. Because it seems like the 49ers are out of the equation. The Rams are facing the Bills, so Cardinals just need to take care of business. The game for Bills and Rams is in Los Angeles, so that's good for the Rams
It's good
because they
for
have
the
to
Rams.
travel.
Yeah.
If they had to travel over plane to New York in the snow, it would have been hell. But yeah. And then let's talk about one more topic because I would love to have your opinion on this because it's been going around pretty much the last 2 days on ESPN.
Okay.
Joe Burrow and the Bengals. All right. I cannot believe what I've been seeing online. Okay, that people are somehow even putting a little bit of blame on Joe Burrow for this season. And their arguments are that he's losing close games, and I can see that, except for the fact that you're in a close game because your defense can't stop a thing. Okay, and if you're gonna be having the ball in your hand 50 times, I'm sorry, but the truth is you're bound to have a mistake. And if the mistake is in the fourth quarter, it's unfortunate, but that's when it happens. That's just what happens. Okay. You see Lamar Jackson throwing the ball probably 25 times a game. Okay. And yes, he has 3 picks. All of them were not his fault, but it's because he barely throws. He's not doing a lot. But Joe Burrow is losing almost every game. He's in a game every single time. He's going to have to throw. And when you throw, you can't be perfect all the time. No quarterback is going to make every perfect throw. He has over 30 touchdowns and under 5 picks. Every other quarterback to have that at this point has 9 wins or more, 9-3, 9-2, 10-2. This guy is 4-8. We are witnessing one of the greatest quarterback and wide receiver seasons of all time, and we're not appreciating it enough because their record is freaking 4-8, and people are blaming him even a little bit for it. Russell Wilson threw 420 yards this past week.
Yeah.
In 2024. Are you going to sit here and tell me that Russ did that? That it was the most perfect game plan, that no matter who it was going to be on that Sunday, he's about to throw over 400 yards? No, you can't. Only the Bengals. Only the Bengals. Joe Burrow has the most passing yards in the league, the most touchdowns in the league, less than 5 picks. What do you want more from him, man? You cannot tell me if you put any other quarterback in the league on this team in the same position, they'd be doing any better. I refuse to believe it. If you put Lamar Jackson on the team, yes, it'd be a completely different offense. They may have won some more games. But if you put Josh Allen on this team, they'd probably still be 4-8. If you put Pat Mahomes here, probably be a little different. But no, you cannot blame this on Burrow. I'm not taking it.
Yeah.
Nothing. This is my rival. The Bengals are my rival. I don't care. It hurts me to see Burrow like this because, again, this is one of the best seasons we're ever seeing.
Yeah.
And it's being wasted. I mean, they're out the playoffs now, so they're done. They lost to the Steelers at home, so their chances are probably down to like 2% by some like miracle. They finish like 9-8 and get a lot of help. I'm sorry, Joe Burrow and Chase. I mean, Chase is having one of the best seasons ever. Like he's gonna get paid so much this offseason. Hopefully not to the Bengals because they don't freaking deserve him.
Well,
And because he torches the Ravens a lot.
good. Yeah. Joe Burrow, yeah, I don't have any because I mean, he's been a rival of mine since his college days, right? At LSU and Bama, right?
Yeah.
So I really don't like him. But as a player, like, but no, he's a good quarterback. He does some, the games that I have watched a little bit of him or highlights, he plays really well. I agree with you. It's not on the quarterback. I think that's more of a defensive issue that the Bengals have at this year, and hopefully they'll address that because you don't want to be wasting these years of Joe Burrow and also Chase. So
Yeah.
that's my take.
I really wonder if Zach Taylor gets fired this offseason. I really wonder.
He's
I
he's
really
coached
wonder.
very well. I mean, I'm thinking, it's just
Has
this
he?
year
Has he coached very well?
he's taken
You
him to
know,
the haven't they gone to the Super Bowl?
yes,
Haven't
but let me
they
tell you
haven't they
this.
made it to the AFC Championship 2 times already?
Yes,
Yeah.
but
So
the one big problem with him is that he can't coach off the bat. Like you look at the last like 4 years with Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor. In the month of September and October, they're crap, and I don't know why. They have great teams, but this is like a yearly thing now, and
yeah,
eventually it's gonna get harder and harder to fight back into this race when you start off so bad, and it's just a
yeah,
consistent thing with him. And again, I don't know why,
yeah.
but
Well,
yeah, go ahead,
that's
bro.
okay because that means one less good team out.
Yeah, but I just love to watch like football and like Joe Burrow,
Yeah,
Jamar Chase. It's like a great like
yeah.
duo to watch. Yeah,
All right.
but
Well,
next week is gonna be cool.
okay. Well, there you guys. There you have it, guys. William talking about Joe Burrow and getting off his soapbox.
Yes,
Anyway, listen, I want to remind you guys that tomorrow we are going to be talking about college football. We're going to have my nephew, William's cousin from Texas, coming on board, and we're going to talk about college football, how they're seated, who's going to be in, who's out. Miami's on the fringe, Bama's on the fringe, Old Miss is on the fringe. All these teams are on the fringe, and tomorrow we're going to talk about it, tackle it, and give you our opinion, and hopefully Bama makes it. That's all I'm going to say. All right, Will, you have anything else you want to say before we sign off?
I can't wait to talk about college football tomorrow.
All
That's
right.
it. I'm good though.
All right, excellent. Okay, guys. So follow us, leave a comment, let us know how we're doing. And then also follow us on Spotify and Apple and stuff like that. I'm not sure what's going on with my camera. It's just been acting a little crazy today. But anyway, we are out.
Out.